Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Roll and Move Reviews. I'm Kirk, your host. Thanks for watching. Today I want to talk about a game that's part of an ongoing trend in board gaming right now, which is to take larger, more complex games and convert them into a card game, maybe occasionally a dice game, the result being a simpler, smaller, less complicated, and oftentimes more accessible version of its original counterpart. Flying Frog Productions recently threw its hat into that ring with the release of A Touch of Evil, Dark Gothic. Flying Frog is known for their big, high-adventure, dice-chucking miniature games in the vein of what a lot of people call Ameritrash. And this game in particular is based on A Touch of Evil, which is their dark, haunted, gothic horror game. They kind of went into a different direction as well because most of these converted games are just basic, simple card games, but Flying Frog turned Dark Gothic into a deck builder. If you're not familiar with that term, a deck builder is a game where each player starts with their own small, fairly weak deck of cards, which they use to purchase new cards from a central pool, building up their deck and hopefully making it strong enough eventually to accomplish whatever goals the game puts in front of you. It's a really cool concept. It makes for some really fun games, but there have been a lot of deck builders put out over the past couple years, to the point where I think some experienced gamers are getting a little deck buildered out. But we'll take a look at Dark Gothic together and see if it has anything special going for it. We'll start by having each player select a character. Each of these are playable characters from the original Touch of Evil game that have been converted by taking the Touch of Evil stats and making them the starting cards for the player's starting decks. So here we have Heinrich Cartwright, the Drifter, who rumor has it is forever. Starts with 3 combat, 2 cunning, 6 spirit, 1 honor. You say 1 honor, is he not very honorable? No, most of the characters start with 1. The most anyone starts with is 2. So his deck looks like this. 3 red, 1 combat, 2 green, 1 cunning, 6 blue, 1 spirits, and then he has that honor card. See, the honor is a silver orb, and that's kind of a wild card that can be used for any of the other 3, and you also get to draw a card when you play that. So that's the deck you'll start with, and you'll use those to buy other cards, fight villains throughout the game. Then we'll build our villain deck, which we're going to have 3 villains, level 1, level 2, level 3. We start with the level 3s. We have the Savage Werewolf, the Spectral Horseman, and the Vampire Bat, or the Vampire of Black Bay. These, again, are all villains from the Touch of Evil game. So we take these level 3s, shuffle them up, put one face down. Take our level 2s, got the Banshee of Langmire, the Dreaded Scarecrow, and the Greystone Gargoyle. Shuffle those up, put one down on top of the 3. Then we take our level 1s, Creeping Terror, Fearing Bogfiend, and Cursed Werewolf. Shuffle those up. And this one goes face up because we start by fighting him, so we're going to start off by fighting the Bogfiend. Down here next to the villains, we're going to keep a spot open for the shadows. That starts out as empty, but as the game goes on, certain card effects are going to make us discard cards either out of our hands or out of the top of the deck like this into the shadows. That represents the growing evil of the villains, their evil spreading throughout the town. If this deck ever reaches 10 cards, that means they have completely corrupted the countryside with their evil, and everybody loses. So in that sense, the game is semi-cooperative, in the sense that we have to all work together to control the shadow deck and make sure the villain's evil doesn't get too far out of hand. You have training cards for each stat that are always available. Combat, Cunning, and Spirit. See the cost up here. Takes you up to 2 each. You also have the honor cards, which are not available to purchase. You see there's no cost there, because after the game starts you can't buy these. You have to earn them through certain noble, honorable acts. Then you always have the hungry dead who are wandering the countryside, and for 1 of each color, what you can do is feed them a card, basically destroy a card out of your hand or the starting lineup. Essentially a way to thin your deck out and also keep cards away from other players. Besides those cards that are always available, this game utilizes a center row mechanic, like a lot of other deck builders, where you just lay out 6 cards. They're always available to defeat or purchase. And once somebody takes one, you replace it with another, so you'll always have 6 down. And let's just look at a couple of these closer. You see up here you have the cost. Now this Sandman only costs 3 cunning, which isn't that expensive. But the Hour is Late costs 2 of each. And that's really one of the keys of this game, is having a diverse, well-rounded deck, because the more valuable a card is, not only will it be more expensive, but the cost will be more diverse. So just looking at some of these cards, you have the hours late, you have events that you can manipulate, you have minions that you can defeat and then unleash on your enemies, you have gear that makes you tougher in combat, you have locations you can control, and then you have allies that you can add to your group to help you out. But although these allies can be pretty powerful, some of them bring some baggage. Lord Hambrook here, when you take him, you also have to acquire a Dark Secret. So you take one of these Dark Secret cards and put it in your discard pile. If you're stuck with it at the end of the game, it costs you points. But if it gets up before that, you destroy it and play one of these shocking discoveries. And these are just bad news for everybody. Lord Hambrook's secret is he's a servant of darkness. Remove any ally cards from the center line and add them to the shadows. So you see how that shadow deck will start to build up. And these Dark Secrets, like I said, are just bad for everybody. So everybody's going to take turns playing their cards, buying the cards in the middle, building up their deck with the ultimate goal of defeating these villains. See here the Bog Fiend is 5 Cunning and 3 Spirit. And they have Spirit and Global and Fight effects that make them unique and harder to beat or make the game harder while they're on the table. As they get defeated, if we defeat the level 1, we flip level 2, who is the Banshee of Langmire. She's 8 and 2. And if we defeat her, we flip level 3, the Savage Werewolf. And if he's defeated before we fill up the shadow deck, the game ends and we add up our points. We add up the points from our villains and from all the cards in our hand. The point value is down here. Whoever has the most points is the top monster hunter and wins the game. When I talk about this game, I have to start by stating the obvious. It's a Flying Frog game. I say that because Flying Frog might be one of the most polarizing companies in the board game industry. Their name, I think more than any other, evokes a very specific style of game that people either love or hate. Full disclosure, I fall 100% into the love camp. I play and enjoy and have fun with everything these guys make. However, I know there are some people out there who just can't tolerate their games. If you're one of those people, odds are you didn't even bother to watch this video. If you did, first of all, thank you for keeping such an open mind. And secondly, I can tell you that there's nothing in this game mechanically that's going to make you dislike it just because of the company that produced it. It has much more in common with other deck builders than it does with any of Flying Frog's other games. So all those little nitpicky complaints you have about the board games aren't going to apply here. On the other hand, stylistically, as far as artwork goes, this is very much a Flying Frog game. Specifically A Touch of Evil, which most of the artwork is taken directly from. That's another complaint a lot of people have about Flying Frog. They don't like that gritty, realistic photography style. Personally, I think you guys need to get over it. I know it looks cheesy. It's supposed to look cheesy. These games are B movies with bad acting and silly soundtracks. Stop taking it so seriously. But that being said, this game has the Flying Frog stamp all over as far as the artwork goes and the style goes. That being said, though, I'm very impressed with how they took the complete game A Touch of Evil and ported it over completely into a deck builder. And what I mean is that everything that's in Touch of Evil, and Touch of Evil is a big game, everything that's in there is in this little deck builder. From the characters, the heroes, and their abilities, to the villains you fight, to the equipment you buy, to the locations you visit, all these things are in this game. Obviously, they do completely different things because it's a completely different type of game, but they all maintain the spirit, I think is a good way to put it. It maintains the spirit of what they did in the game. So, for example, if you're playing one of the heroes in Dark Gothic that you play in Touch of Evil, even though they're doing completely different things mechanically, you feel like you're playing that same guy. He's doing what he's supposed to do. So that's really cool. All the people I play with who've played Touch of Evil are really impressed by that. Now, that being said, do you have to have experience with the Touch of Evil to enjoy this game? No. I've also played it with people who have no frame of reference to the original board game whatsoever, and they've appreciated it for what it is. They had a good time playing it. They had a few questions about things that specifically referenced the board game, but they enjoyed the game and had fun with it. And the game is a good deck builder. It is a fresh deck builder. It brings a lot of new stuff that I haven't seen in new combinations. The one thing is the fact that you have all those different types of currency. You have the cunning, the spirit, the fighting, the combat. So you have to collect all of those. And the fact that all of the cards, especially the more important cards like the villains, require you to have different amounts of different values. So you can't just pick up on one. Like a lot of deck builders, you buy all the gold or the mana or whatever you call the currency. You just load up on that until you're rich enough to spend it all. In this game, you can't do that. You really have to craft your deck and make some really hard decisions and really balance it out so you have enough to do everything. I also like, in keeping with that, the fact that you have those villains that you fight them one at a time, and they're all so different that you can load up your deck to fight the one guy, but once he's beat, the cards you have are completely useless against the next one. So it's always keeping you on your toes. You're never sure what's coming next, and you have to be ready for anything. Are you going to load up on that one guy and just clear your deck and thin your deck out enough to take the next one on, or are you just going to build a nice, well-rounded deck and hope you give yourself the best chance to beat all three villains? The game feels like you're racing across town at full speed. You get to the edge of town where you need to be, slam on the brakes, 3-point turn, full speed in the opposite direction back to where you came from. Like I said, the game keeps you on your toes, and you just have to be ready for anything. So those three things, specifically in combination, the different currency values, the fact that you have to spend them in different ways, and the fact that you have all those different villains, are the three things I really like about it. Few things I would change. The shadow deck, the shadows, I've never really seen them become a threat. They're supposed to be what keeps the game semi-cooperative and kind of keeps everybody working together even if you're trying to achieve the same goal. It's never been a problem for me. I think the most cards I've ever seen in that deck are maybe 5 or 6. And the 6 came when one of the players in the group had gotten so far behind that he was throwing the towel and willfully trying to end the game by making everybody lose. And he only got 6 in there. To be fair, I played the game mostly 2 and 3 players. I'm sure with a little more 4-player action, that deck would grow faster. But the way I've played, it hasn't been a problem. Also, this game needs an expansion fast. I know they've announced that they're going to have one later this year, but they need to fast-track it. Flying Frog, take all that Shadows of Brimstone stuff, set it aside for a second, and focus on getting us this expansion. The reason I say that is because, like I said, I love the variety of villains, but you only have 3 at each level. You know who you're starting out with first, and you have 3 second level, 3 third level. So there's a limited amount of combination. What's going to start happening is that the smarter players in the group, myself not included in that, are going to start to be able to math out the combinations of what's coming up, and from there build their deck to give themselves the best chance of winning the game and beating all 3 villains. And that's going to take away what I talked about, how the game keeps you on your toes, you're never sure what to expect. I already kind of see that started in my group, so I want more villains specifically in that pile just to maintain the replayability of the game and make it so we never really know what's coming. Other than that, I really don't have any complaints about the game. It's fresh, it's new, I've played a lot of deck builders. There's some I never need to play again just because I've gotten everything I can out of them. But this one brought something new to the table. So if you are a Flying Frog fan, you're a Touch of Evil fan, and you want more of that, or if you don't care about any of that, you don't have anything to do with that, but you're just looking for a new deck builder to maintain your interest in the genre, either way, check out Dark Gothic. It's a game you're really going to enjoy. Alright guys, that's a wrap on yet another Roll and Move review. Thanks so much for watching. Leave me a comment, let me know how I'm doing. Are you getting what you need from these reviews, or is there something I should be doing different? Also, let me know what you think about A Touch of Evil, Dark Gothic, or Flying Frog in general. That should be a fun conversation. Before I go, once again, let me tell you about our sponsor website, alteregogames.net. Hopefully, as I do more of these videos, we're developing a little bit of rapport, a little bit of trust. Trust me when I say, you go to Alter Ego Games, you're going to get some great games at great prices. You're going to thank me for it. As always, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and if you want to get a hold of me directly, rollandmovereviews@gmail.com. That's it. Until next time, guys, have fun out there.